Thank you for joining me. We are going to be making a very beautiful fancy fold alternative cards using the Heirloom Arrangement Kit. This is a fantastic kit. Now, what is in here is you can make a variety of cards if you follow the instructions. They are on the inside, but what we're going to be doing, we are going to be making card alternatives. And we're going to be expanding our pack by using a little bit of extra cardstock. We're going to be using pecan pie and some basic white. Those are the items that you need to have on hand to make these card alternatives. You also have to have the Heirloom Arrangement Kit. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I am absolutely in love with this kit. And I think I'm going to be buying a few extra just to make even more. For this card in particular is going to be a fancy fold, and what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and tell you the items that we need to make this fancy fold card. First of all, my name is Tina Kavergich. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions about this card or any other cards in particular, please drop me an email at northernstamper@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. The items that we're going to be using for this card in particular, we're going to have a variety of Stampin' Blends, in particular Old Olive. Now I have a dark and a light Old Olive. If you've never purchased Stampin' Blends, these are alcohol-based markers, and I think some of the best ones to get if you are starting out are the greens. Old Olive is definitely a number one that you want to get. You will constantly go back to using the Old Olive Stampin' Blends whenever you color in anything that is like a leaf or anything like that. You may want to then also expand beyond that, past the Old Olive, maybe getting a Granny Apple Green. Granny Apple Green and Old Olive together make really stunning colors when you are coloring leaves. For this card, I'm going to be using 3 different colors. Now I have a light pink pirouette. Now this is a retired color, but I like to keep all of my colors just in case, and I use them. I have a dark and a light pink pirouette, and I'm going to be, and apparently that's all I have, because those two were the same. So I'm using a light and a dark pink pirouette. To see if the colors you want to use are the colors you want to use on a card, what I suggest is doing a sample on a piece of white and matching it up. And that's what I did with this one here. I colored on with the pink pirouette, and I took the card base that I'm going to be using, this pink one here, and I tried to match up the colors that I thought were best. And then I used this one here, was a little bit too dark. This one was a little too pink. And then I found this one, which was pink pirouette, which is a retired color, was the one that matched the best. So color on a piece of scrap paper to match up the colors to see which ones you want to use. Talking about the card base, we will be using this card base in particular, so I'd like you to find that. And what we're going to do is we need this full sheet. We're going to be doing some cutting and cutting these apart. So you need to have that card base. This is not going to be used as a card base. This is going to be used as an accent piece. So we need that. Our card base actually will be a piece of pecan pie, and we need to have a full sheet of that. Make sure you have the pecan pie and this card base piece here offset, and that's going to create part of our fancy fold. Along with the pecan pie, we need a piece of scrap pecan pie, and it needs to be larger than one of the sizes that we're going to be using. I'm just going to set this aside, and then we'll go and measure what this piece has to be. You have your pecan pie ink pad. We need to have that. That's the color we're going to be using, and we're going to be using this one in particular for our sentiment. We also have the stamp set, and I like what's going to be in here. We're going to be using one of the sentiments in here for this stamp in particular. Let's look at the ephemera packs that we have. In the ephemera packs, there's a sheet that looks like this, and you are looking for this one that looks kind of like it's got the pink and the pecan pie in it, and we're just going to take that piece out. We're going to set the rest of that aside. You're going to look in the flower ones, and there is one that is brown and black, and this is the one we want to take out. We're going to take that one out and place that off to the side. The other ephemera pack items we will be using for other cards. Okay, so we have these pieces. This flower in particular, what we want to do is we want to color this, and that's where these colors come in. And we're going to be coloring in some of the leaves, and I have the dark and the light, and I'm going to be starting with the light old olive. We're going to move on to the dark old olive, and I'm just going to do a little bit of highlights in there. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to work with the light, pretty in pink. Oh, that's what it is. Light, pretty in pink, and I'm going to be placing that down. I'm going to move on to a darker color just to add some highlights. I wanted to bring up the color of this center of the flower, so what I did is I picked up a different color of pink just to offset it, and I'm going to add that. I have a base color, so if I add a different color on top, it will give a bit of a different image on it. I'm going to do that for the center. What I want to do next is I'm going to take my Wink of Stella, and I'm going to color on some Wink of Stella on some of these flowers. And that's going to give a bit of a shine to some of those flowers. You get a lot of nice detail to that. Let's take a look. Can you see the little shine on that? There we go. So we have that color all filled out. What I want to do is I'm going to bring this piece of ephemera pack back in, and what I want to do is cut a shape that is a little bit larger than this piece of ephemera. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that. First, I'm going to measure to see how big it is. So what I want to do is get a piece of pecan pie, and I'm going to make it a little larger. So 3.5 by 2.5, that is going to then translate into 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. I'm going to be cutting that pecan pie to that dimension. I'm going to bring in that piece and I'm going to lay it right on top. Just like that. So it has a little edge. I need to cut these portions off, but first I'm going to glue it down. have it centered in the middle of this piece of paper. I'm going to take my snips and I'm just going to follow along and cut off the edges. So there we have that shape, and it's now matted. Let's place those pieces off to the side. We're going to work on our card base, and you will have a sheet of cardstock that is 11, a full card sheet which is 8.5 by 11. We need to cut it down to 11 by 4 1/4. Once I have it cut down to 4 1/4, I need to do some score lines. And we're going to score it from one side at 2 3/4, and I'm going to flip it over again and score it at 2 3/4. So all I need to do is I'm going to take each side and I'm going to fold it in. And you can see it just meets in the middle there. Okay. Let's just kind of flatten it out a little bit. And that's going to become our card base. What we need to do is we need to take this piece of pink and we need to cut one for each side. And we're going to be cutting it 4 inches, so it's 4 inches tall by 2.5 inches wide. And we need to have 2 of those. And 2.5. Now, because there's a score line right in the middle, I'm going to be using the other side. So this is not quite wide enough, so I need to turn this and cut by 2.5. These pieces that you have left over, make sure that you keep them aside because we will be using them for other cards that we're going to be creating a little later. So I'm going to lay this on this side, 2.5 by 4. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit with the stamp pad on top, or if you have a block, you can always put that on top. I'm just going to let that dry. If you see some of the corners are coming up, you can always add a little bit of blue dot to hold it down. We're going to bring in our piece that we were working on this, and I'm going to place on first, I'm going to stamp a sentiment. I'm going to look for a little sentiment. I want a little sentiment on there. I'm going to just place it on there. Get a block. Ink it up. And place it on. I have it off to the side a little bit because I want to take in my flowers and place it on top. We're going to be using some dimensionals and have them on. Now, this is an option if you want. There we go. We can just place it on like that. If you want, you can always add some ribbon behind the flowers, such as this gold weave, which would work really nice. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the gold weave. I'm going to take a little bit and I'm just folding it, and I'm going to place it behind here. Just going to lay it in, press it into that dimensional. Now this is totally optional. You don't need to add any ribbon, but I think that the gold adds a little bit to it. To make sure that that sticks down, I'm going to add some more dimensionals. I'm going to add that on there, and I'm making sure to clear the area for the sentiment. Okay, you can see there's a little bit of ribbon behind. It does add some design. I'm going to bring back in my card base. I'm going to place that on top. And instead of gluing the full length, the whole side, we're only going to do one side. You don't want to do it all the way over because then you will actually seal your card closed. We're going to pop that on and place it on the one side. I'm going to have a piece of basic white. I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to lay that on the inside for my sentiment. If you want to add a little bit of design, we can stamp either this on here on the corner. Let's just stamp the butterfly. In the pecan pie. Just like that. There is a sentiment that we can pop on here. And there we go. We can pop him inside. If you find some of the corners sticking up, just add some glue dots underneath. We can add some embellishments. We can add some embellishments if we want. We can go with some of the ones that we have left over. And this is totally optional. You can add some embellishments if you like. And that finishes up our card.